back a year later, you'd see that window is down
Down a
a
quarter of
quarter to
inch.
a half an inch where it was originally. And that's fine. We know that's going to happen, right? So the
But we made
siding, the windows, and the siding, they're all attached to the house. They all move down together. But the foundation
will
doesn't
not.
move,
Yeah.
and the porch doesn't move.
Yeah.
So what's happened is they've attached this stone, to the house, and the house is shrunk, and now this is under a lot of crush, right? And then the framing behind this is moved down, causing that, the walls, the flashing was like this, the stone was like this, and since the stone can't move down anymore because it's sitting on the porch, the house comes down, and the flashing does that, it starts to kick up, right?
Oh, okay.
So that tells you that's all that. The problem with this is now directing rainwater behind the wall, which is exactly what we don't want.
So it should be this way downwards, not this way.
Yeah, and at least seal all this up with some caulk to stop water from getting behind there. There's some denting on the threshold of the front door. Probably moving trucks coming in and out. It doesn't look like it's significantly affected the door, but cosmetically it doesn't look very pretty. I would definitely caulk this joint here. And the edges of the door, they're taking on moisture penetration. You can see here and here. This is actually soft, so it's starting to suck water in. So this needs to immediately be repaired or that will start to rot. And then this is the other side of the door, the other edge of the door. We know the dishwasher is not working. We want to ask about that. The alarm system is one of the things we don't check. We want to ask about its operation. Here's inside the garage, that cable coming off the sheath for the overhead door. The door photoelectric eyes that cause the door to stop and go back up if your kid's underneath them or bicycle, those should only be about 6 inches off the ground like this. These are way up, so you could kind of limbo under there, or a child could be laying down and the beam would be above them, right? Or even a bicycle laying down. Does that make sense?
No, so this is for protection.
Yes, it shoots a beam across the door, and if that beam is broken, the door stops and
Okay.
goes back up.
Okay.
So
Okay.
the idea is if you were closing it, let's say, and your car was there, or your child was in the way, it wouldn't go down.
So basically, it should be lower so that if the child is lower than this, it should
Yes.
stop. Otherwise, it will not
Yes,
stop. Okay.
exactly. This is that crack in the ceiling of the bedroom. Not terribly worried about that. Here's that ceiling. Did you see that?
So, yeah,
Okay.
I've been sending some notes and things to them because we saw it a
Yeah.
couple of days ago and there was storm damage
Yeah.
above. So,
Yeah. So even today, that's wet.
yeah, we knew it was
So this
wet,
is the
but-
thermal imaging camera. You can see these dark spots here are where it's wet, right? And you can see,
So it's all wet, not this, but like in the center as
yeah,
well.
it's here. There's that going down the wall. The damage to the bottom of that doorway or that opening is here. That's dry today, but obviously it's been wet. This is all drying out, but
Yeah.
still, even after several days after the weekend, it's still wet. Now we're outside again. What I did there is, I've just, as soon as I walked in, you told me there was a leak, so I wanted to, before I went on the roof, see where it was. That's why you saw some of those inside pictures, but really I start outside.
Okay.
So now I'm outside at this bump out here for the kitchen, and this bottom wood trim here is all pulling loose and weathered. So that all needs to be secured and painted and caulked as needed. That's all coming down.
It's this one?
Yes, right here. Yeah. And then this is the side of it. I think it's this side here. And you can see on the stone, you see all this green algae growth on here. This is water running down off of the roof. This little roof here doesn't have any gutters, so water just sheets down it, right? So it just runs right down the siding and, right onto the stone, right? And this has got the same flashing issue, the flashing sticking up. So where's water going to go? It's going to go behind that wall where we don't want it to go, right? So we've got to get this all repaired. We might consider putting, when you have the roof redone, having what's called diverter flashing that kicks the water out away from the siding, maybe even putting gutters on. That may be difficult because oftentimes in these townhouses, the association dictates what you can do with the front, with the elevations of the house. They want it to all look consistent. But, ideally a gutter here or flashing to get that water away. Also, between the windows here, the trim between the windows has been poorly installed by the builder, and there's gaps. The little wasps and stuff can get in. See that gap there? The same here. This one's hardly together at all. It's got this big gap in it, so they didn't do a very good job. Downspouts, we want to get all of your drainage draining away, from the house. The soil is relatively flat or level. That encourages water to pond and sit there. The water dumping here just sits. Now this is just your garage, so we're not worried about water getting into the garage per se, because it's not below grade. But we are worried about that wall settling over time because you're putting too much water next to it. So again, add more soil, get the water away. This is your gas meter on the right side of the house. Because these are attached units, your neighbor's gas meter is also attached there. And that gas meter, because of soil settlement, has pulled off of the wall, and now only the vinyl siding is holding it. Let me skip to that. You see how that's puckered out right there? So this was originally attached to the wall. It's broken free, and just the vinyl siding is holding it. See that? So you might call the utility company. They may fix that. I don't know. This is kind of a gray area. This is what we call the demarcation point at the meters, where it's Duke. It's Duke out here, isn't it?
Yeah, Duke. Yeah.
Utilities. I would call them to see if they're willing to fix that. They might, fix it at their expense, or they might say no, you have to fix it. This is the siding. There's, what we call a lap siding, or a butt joint here, lap joint. I lifted this and just shown my flashlight back there to look at what kind of wall sheathing you have. And when I did, you can see here's the flashlight. You can see this is OSB, oriented strand board, but it's just a bare board. There's no Tyvek, there's no moisture vapor barrier. Now when we build houses, we wrap our houses. You might see when you're driving through, Mason area, these houses they're built, they all say Tyvek, or they'll have Ryland or Ryan or somebody's name on them. That's like a rain jacket on the house to protect it from water intrusion. This house doesn't have that.
Okay.
So, this was built in 2006. Maybe they were getting away with that in 2006. They wouldn't get away with it today.
Okay.
So just be aware there's no real rain protection. And vinyl siding is not a waterproof membrane. As a matter of fact, if you look at the edge of the vinyl siding, the bottom edges, you'll see little drain holes, weep holes, because they know water does get through there. So just be aware of that.
So this water damage, over what time do you think? Because there's no.
It may never. Like, this is perfect. You don't. It's hard to know. I mean, most of our weather comes from the southwest. So I think that side of the house is probably getting the most weather.
And this is from this side.
Yeah, so that's the side.
This
Other
is-
sides
this
may
is
be
south.
protected.
Yeah, and this is west. Yeah.
Yeah. This is the kind of thing, from a home inspection standpoint, you're not going to do anything about it. The seller's going to be like, that's the way they built it. I'm not fixing it.
Obviously.
Right?
Yeah.
You're not going to tear all
Cannot.
the siding
Yeah,
off. It's more like, be aware this is a risk that you're taking, and I don't want you to, let's say at some point where, let's say the siding blows off and the contractor comes, he's like, this is no wonder it blew off, it's all rotted. I don't want you calling me and go, Mike, how come you didn't tell me it didn't have this wrapper on, right?
Okay.
So it's not right, but I think it's kind of a risk you have to decide if you're going to live with or not.
Yeah.
You could take all the siding off and put it on, but that would be expensive. These are just standard photos. Here's another downspout terminating right near the basement. So, we saw all this water coming in through these cracks. That's because of drainage. That one in the front corner, is right here. Remember I showed you the picture with no gutter and the
So when you say
stain,
no gutter, there's still gutter on the roof,
but not on this one.
but on this one. Okay,
Yeah.
so it's just this,
Yes.
the one that
Yeah.
the sticking out. We
But you
need
can
to.
see the stains going down there,
Yeah.
and so that's where all that water is coming
Yeah.
from,
Yeah.
right? Here's your air conditioning carrier. So this looks like it's new. I'll look that up, but it's new. 2022, March. That's new.
Okay. Yeah.
Here's a combustion air vent. This is a vent that brings air into the basement for the furnace. And some of the louvers are broken, so you may get snow driving in, maybe insects driving in. You can get a new vent cover. That's pretty easy to replace. You have some 2 electrical receptacles on the rear of the house. They're GFI. GFI is the ones that have the test and the reset buttons. These don't have any power on them, and they're tripped, and they will not reset. In other words, I can't reset them. Now, there could be 2 reasons. One could be that the plug itself is defective, and that's very common. These are about $20, and then you need to pay a handyman to install them. But it's also likely that there's no power to them. Okay, so that might mean that the power is switched somewhere. There's one of the wall switches that controls it, or there's another GFI somewhere where I didn't discover it, or maybe it's on the dishwasher and the disposal circuit, right? So they won't reset if there's no power on them, but they also won't reset if they're defective.
Defective. Yeah.
So we're going to mark them as inoperable, but if on the happen chance the seller comes and turns the breakers on and he goes to check those, he's like, that guy's crazy, these are working fine, you'd be like, oh, it's probably the
Okay.
breaker.
Breaker. Yeah.
Another downspout right next to the house. Satellite dishes, when you replace the roof, I'd take those off. I'm not a big fan of
So
them.
what are these connected to? I mean, do we
Well,
know? There are 2, I think. One is here and one
And
is
there's
here.
one right below it.
Below
Yeah,
it, okay.
Yeah. I don't know. It's one of the things, we don't check the sound system or the TV cables, that stuff. But I just, from an inspection standpoint, I don't like it mounted on the roof because it's prone to leaks.
And currently it's not connected to anything.
Yeah, so if you're not going to use it, I would definitely, remove it when you next replace it. There's some pictures under the deck structure. Right here in the corner, there's a crack. This is one of the cracks where we saw where water was coming into the basement. So you can see that crack there. There's the other GFI. It's doing the same thing.
It's not also resetting.
They're not resetting. The fence between you and your neighbors is leaning. I'm not sure whose fence it is. I think it's yours, but it's in pretty poor shape. Here's a crack in the garage wall. I'm not worried about that. Here's some car damage to the interior wall. Maybe somebody drove in too far one night. Had too much wine.
Which wall is it? The front wall?
It's the back wall.
Back
As
wall.
we're using
Yeah.
that convention.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So while this is cosmetic, I do want you to patch this because this wall is in place for fire protection. So we want to patch it just to maintain the fire protection.
Okay, that's fine.
Here's a hose bib. They do this in a lot of these condos and townhouses. They put this hose bib in the garage, which is great, but there's no protection of the drywall. So you see, even when I turn it on, how much water just gets there. So a lot of people put some stainless steel sheet metal here or a piece of plastic to protect that wall. So if you're washing your car or your garage, you're not dumping a bunch of water on your drywall. So here's the roof. Okay, so this is a big issue is the roof. I think the roof is pretty much at the end of its life. You can see here, this is a close-up of the roof shingle, and you can see here how it's cracked. See how this crack goes all the way through? And you've got some granular loss. Here's another one. Here's another one that's got granular loss. Here's a torn shingle. This is on the rear lower roof, like over that back area, cracked and torn. This is, pretty much the area where we see the water penetration. It may or may not be leaking here. It could be leaking up here. There's some damaged siding and trim up here. We're really going to need a roofer to look at it. There's no obvious place per se, but this is where the leak is manifesting itself.
This one.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? It could leak here, and it's going to run down till it gets this change of plane, and then drip there.
Inside.
Right.
Yeah.
And here's this siding and trim that's pulling loose here, this, between your roof and your neighbor's. Really is your neighbor's roof, but it's also possible.
This is my roof. This is neighbor's. Okay.
Yes, but I'm saying this trim might be your neighbor's trim.
Yeah.
But if water's getting behind here, it leaks into your attic, not into his.
Yeah.
Right. So this could be the source of your leak right here. Is your neighbor's roof. Here's a shingle missing off the peak of the roof, and again you can see lots of cracks. The roof vents are lifting, they're pulling off. You can see the nails pulled out. So that can allow driving rain to get in underneath there. The flashings are lifting.
Yeah, I saw that. I could see that from down here.
Yeah. Okay, so that's the roof. So I'm going to be pretty harsh on the roof in the inspection report because 2006 was like 17 years old. So, 18, 20 years, the average life of a roof like this. And since we have physical damage to the shingles, wear, tear, and a known roof leak,
Yeah.
you're pretty much at the end of its life.
Okay.
So that's really the first big thing. Now the second big thing, which I think this is a record for me. I've been doing it for 30 years. Is your master bedroom, your master bathroom, and your utility room are not insulated, and have not been insulated for 17 years.
Master bedroom,
The
bathroom,
master bathroom
and the
and the utility room are not insulated.
From where?
from
they
outside.
They just forgot. This should all have This is in the attic. This should all have insulation, and there's no insulation here.
So
There's your master bathroom.
this is on the top.
Yes, in the attic. I
In the
went up in the
attic,
garage
okay.
attic, and this should all have insulation. And there's never been any insulation, and they forgot to put it in. Here's the bathroom exhaust vent for your master bathroom. Here's your light fixtures, your showers right here. So it's been cold.
This is why you should get an inspection even if you're buying new construction.
Yeah.
So you think this is something we have to do?
Yeah.
Otherwise, this.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's going to be cold in there in the winter, especially since that's the end. You're the end. That's the end unit against the weather. That's going to be the coldest bathroom in the world.
So that's the only place where there's no insulation. Everywhere else there's
Yeah.
insulation.
Yeah.
Even the garage, does the garage ceiling have it?
No, but we don't normally insulate a garage. So, yeah.
Just checking.
So.
So in the report, would you also be putting cost against each of them?
No, we're not contractors, so we don't know. Sometimes, I could give you a cost, like you say, how much is a water heater? It's kind of a unit in place kind of thing. But, how much is a roof? How much is, adding insulation? I don't know. Probably not much to add insulation.
I've got a guy.
But
Very
who built this place?
Ryan.
Ryan Homes.
Right. So I don't know if they're still building around here, but
They
you
are.
might be able to shame them into. The last one I had was the original owner. I think it was 15 years, and it wasn't insulated. And he shamed the builder into not only paying to have it. The builder had the insulating guy come over because that's no big deal for them because they got a contractor, right?
Yeah.
But he had him pay like a percentage of his utility bills for the 15 years. Too.
Oh, wow.
But he was the original.
Yeah, you've been there
Oh,
for
no.
15 years.
Are these the original owners?
No.
No.
Yeah.
Okay.
So here's that sidewalk. It's in shadow, but remember how I said it was a little trip hazard? It's sunk against the curb here. So this is the area that doesn't have insulation. This is that laundry room. The light fixture is pulling loose from the ceiling right here as well. So you want to get that secured before it falls down. And the master bathroom, that whole master bathroom area is not insulated. Now this is the master bedroom. So just to contrast it, remember how we saw the ceiling and all the bottom of the joists? Here you see it's all covered with, R30. It's like 16 inches, 14, 16 inches of insulation. That's what it should look like. We also have, remember you had me take a picture of that card that's on
Yeah.
that has the insulator contract. So you might shame them into it
Okay.
as well. And this is a insulation on the door. I don't know if you notice there's a door in that closet that
Yeah.
looks into that. That should have insulation on it. For some reason it doesn't. There's that crack again in the ceiling of that bedroom. Here's the light fixture over the dining room where it attaches here originally and decided they want to move it over here. So they spliced that wire connection, and that's unsafe. So we want to have a continuous wire there. The shower doors upstairs, there should be a guide that stops the doors from swinging into the shower. And if you push them in too far, they'll come off the track and fall. The windows, we know all of them are very stiff in their operation. You want to glue and seal those. Here's a little bit of damage to the scuttle going up into the attic, where someone's dropped that in the past. Here's the main attic, so the same kind of picture, right, where it's just covered with insulation. And here's does it have the company name? Liberty. Does that say Liberty?
Yeah, Liberty, Ryan.
Ryan. We get that guy's name.
Joy. Crew. Yeah.
No anti-tip bracket on the range. It should have a bracket that stops it from tipping over so little children can't tip the range over. The cabinets are secured with drywall screws. They really should have cabinet screws. You can see these are already pushing through the material. Drywall screws are designed to actually drive through, so they're not very good at holding things to a wall. So we want to put a cabinet screw that's got a washer on it. Water temperature is too hot. It's 130 degrees. You want to turn that down, to nothing more than 120, 125, because it's a scalding hazard for small children. We know that the garbage disposal doesn't always also work. They're on the same breaker. And we know we've got a leak underneath the sink.
What is this breaker?
Circuit breakers.
Circuit breaker, it was not turned on. Dishwasher from the main MCB.
And this is leaking right here at this packing nut. That's where the leak is. And these windows also stiff in their operation. Smoke detector hanging down in the ceiling of the hallway, and it should be secured. This is just showing your furnace is working. This is where we went back with the moisture meter. 49% down here on that wall. 32% on the wall. 26%. This is the cosmetic issues with the drywall we talked about. These back windows, I couldn't get these two to open, or this one. So 3 of them I could not open. This one I could barely get open. This one has a bad sash balance or a cord. I think I've got a picture of that. So see that cord I've got in my hands. So these windows have springs on the sides of them that help lift the weight of those windows to make them easier to go up. So that cord, the fact that it's sticking out, probably means the spring is broken and the cord's not under tension anymore. So, and the other ones, when I say couldn't open them, you might be able to force them, but I don't want to force them and break a spring and then they're like, you broke the window, right? So we're just going to mark them as inoperable. Really need to have a window specialist look at them and get them working.
The same is true for the ones in the bedrooms above?
The bedrooms, a lot of these are just stiff in their operation. You might be able to clean the tracks and lubricate them to get them to work a little bit better.
Okay, so all of them don't have springs.
They all have springs in them.
They all have.
But the one in the back is for sure has a bad spring or
Gotcha.
a broken spring.
Okay.
We talked about all the linen, the towel holders, the roll holder. They're all loose in that master. Somebody didn't do a very good job of installing them. The tile between the master shower and the shower pan, all of that grout or caulk has popped out. We want to clean all that old stuff out and put new silicone caulk in. tile pulling loose here next to the soaking tub. Another tile bar loose. Here's in the kitchen, just these holes where they had the old light fixture. They just put in a new one. That's cosmetic in nature. Damage or scuffs to the basement stairwell from moving furniture. Light bulbs not working. Here's the crack in the front left corner. Signs of water coming through. Mud on the floor. It's just your incoming water line. Here's the leak we saw possibly from the refrigerator. We want to ask for some assurance that that's been corrected. Here's a leak coming down. This is right at the basement stairwell. So this is leaks coming in over. And remember, we saw daylight through here too. We could see
Yeah.
the outside.
We saw daylight from like right here
Yeah.
below.
And then the water softener, I would remove that. You can see signs that it's leaked in the past. And it's not bypassed. They said they weren't using it, but they haven't, I'm talking about bypassing the water flow. It's still circulating through the tank. And the tub, the master tub's draining slowly. I want to get that corrected. This is that daylight where just turn the lights off. You can see between the top of the foundation and the sill. Here's the smoke detector is missing in the basement. Here's the damage to the subfloor underneath the hall bathroom, the half bathroom here. Here's the moisture damage coming down from underneath the refrigerator. That we tested all those, they were dry. There's a light bulb, barely working. These are crap, these.
CFLs.
Yeah, they're terrible. There's a crack in that foundation wall. We talked about that. Here's the crack in the left rear foundation wall with some water coming through it. Here's the other one. Water coming through it. Here's under the master. We saw past leaks. Here's the mold. So these are kind of the close-up pictures I took
Of the mold.
of the mold. So, when you look at that, you may not be a biologist, but you can tell that's,
It's not a crystal.
yeah, it looks like it's, the way we describe, we don't say mold, we say fungal biogrowth, but biogrowth. You just basically don't want something growing in your house, which is what this is, right? So you can call it whatever you want or not identify it, but we don't want living things growing in our house.
Yeah.
Where exactly is this? Sorry.
This is throughout the basement. more or less.
Throughout the basement.
And so you can see these small little buds. These are called hypha. That's the reproductive part of the mold spore. Like dandelions, spores that are just ready to go. They're sticking up. I'll enhance these photos, on my computer, but it's not bad for a handheld camera. So you can see this is growth, right? It's sticking up. I usually normally take, if you see here, you see these dark spots running this way? That's because the flashlight's shooting this way. That's a shadow, right? So that shadow tells you this material's sticking up from the substrate, right? It's sticking up like that because it's casting a shadow like trees would in a forest when the sunlight hits them. So, that's your sign too that there's something on there, right?
On there, right.
Electrical panel was fine. Furnace and water heater were fine. There's that pipe. We'll just ask if they know, is that the radon pipe? And that's it.
All right.
So the roof or the stone veneer in general, the roof, the cracks through the foundation wall, and the mold.
And insulation.
And insulation.
And insulation, of course. I forgot it like the insulating contractor. Yeah. The insulation's, that's a fairly easy thing. I don't know what the cost is. I can't imagine it's going to be terrible, but it's just,
Something we have to do. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, the seller, obviously, owners don't know about it. right? That's gonna be a total surprise.
Yeah.
Right?
Did you check the insulations on the windows, like this and the one on the wet
The
side?
insulation. What do
You
you
mean
mean?
like with the thermal imaging camera?
Yeah, yeah.
Before you got here, I went through the whole house because wanted before I went up on the roof. I looked at everything. Yeah.
I mean, could you check with the thermal imaging camera this and that just to see if there is any leaks in the windows?
The short answer is yes, but the true answer is no. Right? I mean, I did look at all the windows. I didn't see anything. What we in the industry we call it a thermal anomaly, something we don't expect to see, like that stain. I didn't see anything like that.
Okay.
But the reality is, that thermal camera is not going to check for air leakage because we're not inducing a positive or negative pressure in the building. So, even for most of this inspection, we've had that door open, right?
Mhm.
So the pressure inside the house is the same, and it's not windy at all. It's not hot. It's not cold. Not outside. It's about the same temperature as it is inside, right?
Yeah.
So there's no thermal delta, no big difference between outside. It's like a blizzard outside. Yeah, we could really see cold air coming in. Any air that's coming in is relatively warm,
Okay.
and there's nothing really driving. There's no wind. There's no negative pressure.